So I decided to dedicate a week to practice my pixel art skills by drawing one video game character I know per day. I don't have a lot of time since I work a full-time job, so this practically used up all my free time and my weekend. So yeah, let's see how I did. So for the first day, since I said on my past video that I love Harvest Moon, why not start a character from that game? So I chose to draw Mary, a local librarian from Mineral Town. So I started with the face and the eyes because I think when you draw a character, you start with the face and the eyes. So at this point I really don't know what I'm doing, so I started sculpting the head and eventually the hair. I always had a hard time drawing hair, so I really don't know how to go about it, but I think after some fidgeting, the hair is kinda coming together to how I like it to be. Well, something to note about the character is that she is a shy librarian, but is very hardworking and passionate about her books, and I wanted my drawing to capture that. So I started on one of her key features, which is the glasses. I don't know why I made it pink, but in the final version, I made it yellow to make it look like the original. When I'm drawing, I'm sorta all over the place. I'm kinda hopping between different parts. Well, I think that any method is fine as long as you are comfortable. It may be inefficient, but I think once I grow more familiar, maybe it will be more organized. However, I seem to be stuck on how to approach the eyes, and I can't seem to be satisfied with how her eyes look. So I did a little research because I'm kinda stuck still with the eyes. So I stumbled upon this blog. It's a simple blog on how to start drawing a low-res character, and I think this pointed me on the right direction on how I wanted Mary's eyes to look like. With this guide, I was able to start somewhere I like and then build upon it. So if you're familiar with old 2D games, this is how the sprites often look like, and this was the look I was going for. After I was satisfied with the look of the eyes, I began putting some details to the face and the hair. Then I had to redo her glasses because I erased her eyes a while ago, and yeah. After some finishing touches, I think I'm finished with my first drawing. For day 2, I went for a more popular video game character. I tried drawing Link from the Zelda series. This time, I went for a more straightforward approach. I immediately started with the eyes, then came after is the head and the hair. This time around, I had a clear idea on how I wanted the hair to look like. I think one of the most important things to note before drawing is to know what colors you're going to use. You can wing it most of the time, but sometimes it's often useful to have a pre-made palette. I don't know why, but I felt obliged to immediately start with his hat. Well, maybe because it is one of his main features, and it is literally bigger than his head. Then I started to work on his green shirt. Well, actually I only played one game from the series, and it was Breath of the Wild. And on that game, Link looked a little different. He sported a blue shirt and he dumped his old hat. Then to finish off the drawing, I included Link's two trusty weapons, the Hylian shield, and the Skyward Sword. And yeah, after some finishing touches, I think I'm finished with my second drawing. For the third day, I went for something different. I drew a cow from Minecraft. Well, even though this was my first pixel art drawing that involved an animal, let alone a cow, I thought that it would be easier than my past ones, since the original model is literally made out of blocks and squares. But oh boy, I was so wrong. I also did try to make him extra cute. I made him lean on some oak wood fence, but I was kinda struggling on how to make his body look like he was leaning on a fence. The real struggle was actually making his arms look like it was bent but not disjointed from his body, but after a few tries, I think it eventually worked out. Then after that, I did some detailing and I made sure to emphasize the patterns on his back. And after a few changes and touches on the fence, yeah, I think I'm done with the cow. For the fourth day, well, I was thinking since I drew a cow yesterday, why not draw someone riding a cow? But I can't really think of someone, so I just chose Nunu and Willem from League. Well, Willem is not a cow. I think he's a Yeti, but Yeti, cow, same thing. And I started with Nunu first. And yeah, when drawing something human-like, I think it's always best to start with the face. Well, for me at least, it was working well for me. I think it is very important to make his clothing feel fuzzy because Nunu and Willem is a champion that lives in a cold place called Freljord. So naturally, he'll have a coat, and it is this bright orange coat you see. Well, I tried very hard to make it look like a coat. Then I started finishing his cap. I tried my best to make it look like the original. I main Nunu in League, so I see him a lot in my games, and I only realize it now that his hat was actually made to resemble Willem. And after Nunu, I drew Willem. I was originally planning to make Nunu look like he was riding Willem, but I got lazy. So I just placed Willem behind Nunu. And same with the cow yesterday. I was having a hard time drawing non-human-like characters because he was looking very derpy. But I thought let's make him look even extra derpy. And actually while drawing this, I realized that Willem turns out was not a cow, but he's actually a moose. So I made some final touches to his head and went on to his lower body, but actually I made a mistake here. I realized that I only drew Nunu's half body, same as my other drawings, so I can't really draw Willem's full body while having Nunu's body beside him. So turns out I just deleted Willem's lower torso after finishing it. Then yeah, after some finishing touches, I think I'm done with Nunu and Willem for my fourth day. Okay, so for the fifth day, I'm guessing most of us love Pokemon, right? So I decided to draw my favorite one, Mudkip. If you were a fan of Pokemon, you'll probably be familiar with Gen 3 Pokemon starters, Torchic, Mudkip, and Trico. Well, Pokemon Sapphire was my very first Pokemon game, and Mudkip was my very first companion. So I started by drawing his blue face. Mudkip is a water type Pokemon, but not all of the water types are colored blue, but most of them are. And Mudkip has a fin on its head because it is a mudfish Pokemon. I don't know if there are real life fishes that has fins directly on top of their heads, but Mudkip was based from the Mexican walking fish, which is why it has his fins on its cheeks. Then after detailing the head features such as the fins on the cheek and the head, I proceeded in drawing the body. And I was planning to make him hold a rare candy to make him look cuter. Rare candy is some sort of item that raises a level of a Pokemon, but it doesn't mean anything in this context. I just had to make him hold something like he found it underwater while playing or something. Mudkip also has a fin on its back, so I took care of that along with some detailing and shadowing at the bottom because I wanted him to be on water. And later on, I decided to make him hold something more recognizable and iconic. Well, nothing's more iconic in Pokemon than an actual Pokeball. I did some rough sketches of the Pokeball at the side. Then after I made the final version, I just replaced the candy and placed the Pokeball. This was actually easier because of the layering feature of Asprite. Although I didn't do it completely in this drawing, most artists separate the body parts into layers, which is often useful for modifications and animations. And yeah, I finally finished Mudkip for my 5th day. So the next one is my final drawing, and I did it for 2 days. And for this one, I chose to draw a palico from the Monster Hunter series. Well, to sum up, palicos are basically cat companions for your adventures. This drawing took 2 days to complete since this seems to be the most detailed and complicated amongst my other drawings. The footage was sped up actually, and some of it are clipped, but I spent a lot of time deciding even on the color palette. So to start off, I drew the head and started to form the headgear of the palico. Then proceeded for the initial form of the face. I made another head since I didn't want my first one. I wanted it to be more chunky and fluffy like a cat. One thing about drawing cats is that you should always emphasize the cat eyes. You often see the cat's pupils, especially in the morning, to be narrow slits, and their eyelids may be partially closed or drawn into a squint. So moving on to the face, I proceeded to make some contours, and I wanted the cat to have plump cheeks, and yeah, I'm starting to like how the face is coming together. I actually wanted the cat to have some patterns, but I think I'll just flop on the execution, so I decided against it. So after I finalized the face, I proceeded on doing the headgear, which was pretty daunting for me. I wanted it to have this leathery and rubberized look to it and resemble the original one. And of course, I wanted the audience to know that this was actually a headgear with goggles on, and not just some funny hat. I was having trouble actually keeping it symmetrical, but I ended up just copying one side and pasting it to the other and putting some slight variances. Next up was the lower body. So the palico is wearing a jacket of some sorts with pouches and a ribbon, and I wanted the cat's arms to have this curled up position, much like this one you see on the screen, but I decided to start with the jacket first. And this ribbon is supposed to look like it was tied across the neck on the collar, but you see I'm kinda struggling. I was not all too happy with the color, so I scrapped it and I started over. And yeah, I think this time it looked way more cleaner. And after that, I took care of the palico's pouches. Next up was the arms. This was the one I was talking about earlier, and it didn't look like it was curling towards the viewer, and it looked like its arms are on the side of its body. But after some changes on some minor pixels, I think it now looks like it's curled upward or forward. Well, didn't do quite well, but I'm happy with the result. So yeah, after some cleaning up, I think I'm done with my last drawing. So yeah, that was my 1 week journey. I learned quite a lot both in pixel art and actually video editing. Sorry this video took too long to make. I was very busy for the past few weeks, but I hope you liked the video. And you can comment down below if you knew any of these characters and if you would like to see more. But actually my next plans are finally starting with game dev for this channel, which was the actual goal. That is why I was practicing some pixel art first. So yeah, again, I hope you liked it, and I hope I see you on the next one.